Hello everyone. I'm Hamad Kamran, an AUIS alumni, and I'm pleased here today to have a nice discussion with Dr. Shakir, a visiting scholar to the Center of Gender and Development Studies (CTS) in AUIS, and he's a professor who underpinned the foundations of a crucial course that is to be offered this summer at AUIS about the Kurdish about the history of Kurdistan. The course will employ very distinctive approach in teaching the Kurdish history from the very early establishment of the civilizations in this area towards the 21st century. And we have a lot of to discuss, and there is a short. We have very limited time, so we'll get ahead for the to welcome Dr. Shakir. Dr. Shakir, welcome, and it's very nice to have you here.
Thank you so very much.
I'm sure there is much to cover below the surface. It is not about this webinar, and hopefully the AUIS propels this course to its regular schedules around there, as it is very important to be offered. So I will start with the questions that are widely maneuvered in the heads of the students who are willing to enroll in this course. So first of all, why would the students take this course, and what are the students' eligibilities to be enrolled in it? The prerequisites and the level of the difficulty that this course can are standardized. So please tell us what you think of it.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so very much for the introduction and for arranging this this webinar. Actually, I was since I arrived, I was talking to different people, and I wanted to, start a campaign because when I've heard that there is no Kurdish history course was being offered at the AUIS, I was a bit disappointed because. For me, in any region or any public, the first thing that even mothers should tell their kids is their history. Where do they belong and where do they come from? And in academia, also it's the same thing. The history course should be taught, and I'm very glad that the AUIS allowed me. And first, when I had the discussion with Dr. Tobin, he told me that there is a course in the course book, but it is not being offered. We have tried a couple of times, and as I'm really passionate about Kurdish history, about the Mesopotamian history, about Yazidi history. So I said, yes, I would really love to do it. And coming back to your point about having on regular basis, actually, I proposed to Dr. Tobin that if not every semester, it should be every second semester, twice, and not in the summer or winter, but in complete semesters, because there's a lot to discuss and there is a lot to explore. And in 1 month or 6 weeks, you cannot do a lot with that, because students have different, speed of learning, and also there are so many other courses that they have to take. So that's why I've suggested that, and I hope with the help of you and other students, we can do that, and we can propose that at least twice, if not more, we should have this. Now, coming back to your question, why student should take. I personally believe, as I've mentioned before, that every human being should know the background. Where do they come from? What is their history? What their history says? What were the ups and downs of the history? So this course will will acknowledge and also equip the students with all this knowledge and all this this historical background of their ancestors, of Kurdish ancestors, and definitely not everybody is Kurd and will be Kurd, but definitely Kurdish ancestors, that where and how the civilization developed. So definitely that's why, in my opinion, it is really, really necessary. Whoever lives in this region should know about that, and that's what I believe, and that's why I think that students should take. Now, who can take this this course? Everybody can take it. First, a major elective. It is a major elective course. It's one of 3 non-PolGov courses that are required. You know, this is the first one. Then it is also a minor course for international students studies minor, not politics minor, but international studies minor. And it is also a general education credit for non-IS, because you were asking about, I think there is the next question, that would it be difficult for non-IS students to take it? Actually, it is credit for them. People who need to take social science course, any 1 or 2, so they can also take this course. So these are the answers, or this is what I can say about the questions that you have posed.
Interesting. Thanks a lot.
And if there is anything that I miss or you want to emphasize on, please, you can ask me anytime.
Well, gratitude for it. Thanks a lot. And for, if we spring to the some particularities of this course, what in terms of geography, what territories do you exactly cover? Is it about the Great Kurdistan that we know have been split into 4 parts at least, or you are just concentrating on this part of this world, on this region?
Okay, so Mohammed Gamran, for me, there is one Kurdistan. Okay, and that Kurdistan was unfortunately, due to some gimmicks and due to some really cunning moves, was divided into 4 pieces, you know, 100 years back. So when we talk about Kurdistan, it's only one Kurdistan. There are not 4 Kurdish histories. So there is just only one Kurdish history, one civilization, one, you know. And now we see some differences in different parts, and that is they are the man-made. They are not natural. They are natural. We can say that, okay, but they are, you know, forced changes. You know, if we see changes in the language or see changes in culture somewhere, they are just only, you know, politically forced changes, you know. But if we go back 50,000 years, 100,000 years, or 2,000 years, 3,000 years back, it's same. It's one region, you know, one ancient the population which was residing in the ancient Mesopotamian region. That is, you know, those people are called Kurds also, and this is, you know, or the history of these people is the Kurdish history. So I do not differentiate between any other part, or this part, or Basur, or you know, Greater Kurdistan. So for me, when I say Kurdistan, it's Kurdistan, which is unfortunately unfairly divided and captured and dominated by Iran, Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, unfortunately.
Sure, the students will give you an applause for these sincere remarks. Thanks a lot, Dr. Shakir. And I would like to divide the discussion henceforth to 3 sections. We will have, we will start with the ancient history, and we will jump then to the medieval, and it is natural development towards the modern one. So if we commence by asking where did where did first the Kurdish people left their mark on the history, where it dates back, and and how that is related to the Median Empire?
Okay, so actually,
Descendants of myths.
actually, before going to this one, I would like to mention one of the things that which was in one of the interviews that I gave it to, I think, Davar. I mentioned that some Kurds, you know, they don't know their history, and there was kind of maybe resentment or kind of controversy was raised, or people were discussing on Twitter or somewhere else. So I just want to clarify. I had lots of discussions with lots of Kurds since I have arrived in Kurdistan in October, late October last year. And not a single one was able to tell me that when Kurds, or when we look at the history books, when were the first signs of Kurdish, you know, history found, and how old is Kurdish history, or how old is Kurdish nation, and stuff like that. So that's why, based on that thing, I just commented, but it does not mean that none of Kurd knows anything about the history. There are really amazing people around, and people like you who are really deep into it. And I really appreciate you, because you were constantly, you know, following on, and then giving even material, that what material should be used, and then inviting me to use Khani, you know, like I was a bit worried about using Khani, and then you said no, it's better, and you know, use this and that. So thank you for that, and thanks AUIS alumni, your friend, I forgot his name, the one in Erbil.
Davar?
No, not Davar. The other one, very close to me. Hedi. Yeah, Hedi. Yeah, it's the name. His name is different, so I forgot. Forgot. But thanks to him also, you know, that he, I talked to him, and then he said, okay, I should talk to you, and so thank you for that. Now, coming back to your question. If we look into the history books, in archaeological sites, we can see that there are the evidences of cave habitations, you know, as old as 100,000 years, you know. And these cave habitations were found in Behestun, I think, or Bisitun, which is modern day Iran. And then if we look into the cave habitations in Erbil area, in Shanidar region, it goes up to, you know, 55,000 years back, you know. So we definitely, we will talk about that. You know, it's, we will not start with, you know, ancient, we will go to prehistory. We will start with the prehistory, and then we will come to ancient, and then medieval, and then modern, you know. So this is what I think, that it's the signs go up to 100,000 years back, you know. And the evidence shows that the region was first to move from hunters and gatherers to proper agriculture, you know, and domestication of animals. And then transforming from hunter and gatherers economy to food producing economy. So this is the region which started all these, you know, really amazing things, which really changed the face of the planet. Actually, the way we see planet right now. Basically, back then it was started by the people of this region. and we will definitely talk about that, and then after developing agricultural technology, between 8 to 12,000 years ago, ancestors of the Kurds, or the residents of this sacred land, I always call it, transferred this technology to Europe, to Anatolia, which is modern day, Turkey, North Africa, Indian subcontinents, and then people, and the thing is that people really talk about Indian subcontinent and Gandhara civilization and Buddhist civilization that in that region, but that basically that civilization was influenced by this civilization, and not many people talk about this, and this is really sad actually, and unfortunately, please don't take offense of this, but there is the problem lies in Kurds also, because Kurds cannot and did not promote their culture and promote their history and took it to another level, because it's a really, really rich culture and rich history. But not many people know about Kurdistan actually. People know about India, people know about Indian subcontinent, people know about the civilizations there and whatever is being, but people don't know where, like, which civilization really brought some really huge changes in that civilization. Right now I'm in Brazil. When you talk to people about Kurdistan, they don't know where is it? From Stan, they say, okay, so it must be close to Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan and Pakistan and Iran. But if you don't have Stan with it, so if you just say Kurd, they don't know what is Kurd. So that's why I think it is necessary and important to dig deeper. So what I was talking about, that, okay, so 8 to 12,000. So we will talk about that how agriculture was, initiated, and domestication of the animals was initiated in this region, and how it was passed on to different regions of the world. And then also the rise of Mesopotamia in 3000 BC. It really changed, as I mentioned, it really changed how planet looks like today. So we will talk about this, and then the people who really cashed this development in this region were the Kurds. They really cashed on to this development, and then they spread to different regions of the world and nearby regions. And then we will also talk about how the Akkadians, who came there and defeated the Kurd ancestors, and at that time they were called, I think, Lulus, and Lulubi, Lulus, who were also later on. There was a very, sorry to say, a cruel leader among Lulus was Badruddin Lulu, who really initiated one of the first genocide against the Yazidis in the 11th and 12th century. So we will talk about them, that how they came there and how they they captured the Kurd land, means Akkadian came and defeated Lulus, and especially their king, I think Satuni, in Diyala. So yeah, so we will definitely talk about this, and then, because as I've mentioned previously to you, that if we start talking about these questions in detail, I think every question would need hours and hours of discussion. And unfortunately, we do not have the interaction with the students to get the questions. But yeah, so these are the things that we will definitely talk about. Then we will also talk about that how then it moved around 17th century BC, how Kassites, they occupied Luristan again, another region in modern day Iran, and who are, because Kassites are also considered Kurdish ancestors, but the real authentic ancestors are the Medes, as you know also. People say that, okay, it's the real authentic ancestors of the Kurds, that you can really make the connection are the Medes, and then we will also talk about that how this region was then conquered by the great Cyrus of Iran, the King Cyrus. These are the things that we will cover, we will discuss during our course. One of the things, I don't know whether there is somebody from my other courses that I have been teaching, 2 courses before this course. They know that my focus and my main style of teaching is research-based learning. So it will not be only me talking, and people listening. It will be based on presentations. So students will read, go through, present, and then research, and then write research papers, and go deeper into it. So it's all about research. Whoever is interested in research and whoever is interested in learning the history, it would be a really amazing course for them. I have received one of the email last night. Actually, there was one student who got to see this course on Moodle and said that it is his, I think his or her last course, and he or she will graduate in June actually. So if I can give the course content, definitely I don't have any issue with that, I can give it. But if some of your friends who are not at AUIS but want to join the classes sometimes, they are more than welcome to join. I can ask Dr. Tobin. I think there is a possibility of guest, participants, and you can definitely join the discussion, and you can participate in the discussion. So there's no problem, because my main focus is to encourage people to take Kurdish history course and to go deeper into it and become researcher of Kurdish history, because we really need people going deeper into it. So if anybody wants, and anybody that who wants to join and wants to learn from this course, I'm more than willing. I do not have any issue with that.
No, I'm sure as far as the students are concerned, they may have a competitive attitude towards taking this course because of the materials that it provides and the brilliance of the professor that teaches it. And in the meantime, we know that people in general, and maybe students, first or second year students, are sometimes poorly equipped with a cursory knowledge about the prehistoric and the ancient history of this part of the world. As you know, maybe the materials available are too crude or too complicated, sometimes even not widely available. So it would be a really remarkable opportunity for them to take this course and receive the knowledge accordingly from you.
And one more thing I would just like to add, that this course is not only based on like will give you the historical perspective of Kurdistan and current situation and the future, but it will also equip you with with the research technology, methodologies, and how you can do research, how you can, because what I have observed also that lots of students do not know how to do research, do not know how to cite. Actually, I have in my two courses that I've taught, I have not come across even a single student who really knew how to cite properly. And I'm talking about like the international standard of MLA or APA, so this is also another opportunity that you will learn how to go deeper and how to cite and how to, do a proper research. So if you end up going abroad, going to the US, to Australia, to Europe, for your further studies, for masters or PhD degrees, you will know and you will not feel embarrassed when people will look at you, you don't know how to cite it, So it will also focus on that thing. So this is another plus point.
Definitely for the students who are seeking to develop their academic skills, they shouldn't have the loop around their research methodologies and the techniques, so they should be learning it through their university life. And this course, of course, as you alluded to, would be a good opportunity for them to get back on track and conduct research with more profession and more dedication. And
yeah, just one more thing, because the course, when I will teach the course, I think you have I've sent you and you have seen that the first initial class would be focusing on methodology, how to do research, how to go deeper into the topic. So this would be the first class that we will talk about. We will not jump direct into like, I will not throw them into the sea and ask them how to now swim. I will show them how to swim first, and then let them do their work. So yes, I'm really looking forward to it. So sorry for interrupting.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dr. Shaka. And we may jump into the discussion of the medieval time of Kurdistan. We know the two-way partition of Kurdistan in following the Chaldean War in 1514. Somehow swept away the natural course by which the principalities at that time were trying to be unified into a modern nation state. That is the natural development of a state. It starts with principalities and fragmented sub-states, and through the natural code that happened in the European model, it will eventually be a state. Of course, there are some exceptions to this region. The idea came very late, after 400 years, but we know about Khani, about Ahmadi Khani. There is a really interesting discussion in his masterpiece, Mamuzin. He says in the section of the Plight to God that he is writing this piece to complete the religion and the state, and he argues that we if we do not be unified, and if still we are vulnerable to the threats from both the Persian and the Ottoman Empire, we will not succeed in forming a state. He goes further to bring some other interesting polemics. He says, if we want a king that is that really cares about the intellectuals and more, and for him division, partition is something that is taboo and really cares about the literature and buys the knowledge that I embody in my texts. There is a lot of other interesting philosophical polemics that he puts in Mamoudzine. But if you see through it, you see at the time in which Hani wrote this piece actually coincides with the very very start of the idea of the nation state in Europe. You know, the philosophical sphere at that time was endeavoring to retrieve the authority from the god towards the end. We have Machiavelli that harnessed the modern politics, and we have then Hobbes that talks about the Leviathan. Of course, Khani was in Bayezid, in Bhutan, didn't have any idea about these figures, and he actually wrote Mamoudzine before Hobbes even. But the idea that he covers is very much the if you read between the lines, is very much the same content that the modern politics at its very start poses. So what do you think about it?
Okay, dear Mohammed Kamran, I think it's one of the most important question, which thanks for posing this question actually, that the historians normally, or they tend to ignore, is that the rise of Ottomans and Safavids was actually the fall of the Kurds. The Kurds who were, once the leaders, once the, dominant power of this region, and this was because when Safavids and Ottomans were losing their, their grip on power, they brought in religion. They used religion to remain in power, and abused religion to remain in power. Coming to later, I'll continue this, but coming to this, the idea of nation state of Hobbes and stuff. In my personal opinion, this idea of nation state was completely inspired and taken by Europe from Ottoman and Safavid divide, and the way they they tackled religion, and the way they tackled the power, the way they brought in, so initially this was this was the inspiration. Definitely they thought, okay, so they refined it. Actually, a couple of a month back, I think I was having a discussion with one of our professors at AUIS, where Dr. Tobin was present also, and I said even at that time that in my personal opinion, and if you look into the history books closely, you see that Hobbes is way later, centuries later. But basically, this was the time when this idea of nation state was developed. But then when they could not control this idea, then they brought in the religion. And what Hobbes and Europe did, they said, okay, so this is the model that we want to follow, but we do not want to keep the religion, and do not use the religion, because otherwise it will be, they had vision. They were visionary. They had vision that, okay, so if we use it later on in the longer run, it will give us problem. We didn't do that. And that's why we are facing the issue even now. All this extremism, all this thing. But this thing, like when Kurdistan was divided, and then Kurds, showed the loyalty to Ottomans, they didn't have any other option, because the Ottomans were more powerful, and the Kurds, unfortunately, as if we take Khani's one phrase, one phrase of Khani, and where Khani says, if we had a king. He says, and he nails it here. He says, if we had a king, means if the Kurds had a king, if the Kurds had a leader, and if I say in one sentence the issue of Kurds did not have a leader, Kurds do not have a leader, and Kurds will not have a leader if they will continue the way it is at the moment. And Khani did it, like, just imagine 5-6 centuries back. And people who took that idea and use that idea and refine that idea, they are where they are at the moment, and where Kurds are at the moment, we can see that, so it's actually the idea of nation state. It is there. And then after that time, 13th, 14th, 15th century, when as I said, when Ottoman and Safavids rise to the power, Kurds were falling down, and that was the time where religious extremism, forced conversion came in, because as we all know, Islam was not the religion of this region. It was forced. It started with Umar bin Khattab when he invaded the region and Hakkari Mountains, and he went back and he said, "Oh, these people are the warriors." He was so impressed. So let's make them our front warriors. So that's what Kurds were doing for centuries now. With very less arms and everything. So going back to your question, so then forced conversions, Zoroastrians, which was the main religion, and Yazidism, which was the main religion, forced conversion to that. The first, actually, the uprising of the Kurds against Muslims was back in 8th and 9th century. When a Yazidi leader stood up and then fought with I think Abbasi Khalifa. So this is how it started, and this is how it was changed into and some people took it from the Kurds. Kurds didn't take it because of the lack of the leadership. And that is why religion is still playing a very important role, and people are still paying for those mistakes. Later we will discuss about the modern blunders some Kurds or lack of Kurdish leadership did. But yeah, so this is what I think, and I totally agree with what you have even mentioned about Hobbes and this idea of nation state. But I say that it was totally the idea of this land, and later it was taken and refined by Europe, and then now we see nation state.
Interesting. I'm sure that there is a lot more discussions that needs to be expounded on this, but unfortunately we have a very limited time about that, and the students are really maybe willing to receive this information from you as soon as they enroll in the course. So if we move even more centuries towards the end of the World War I and the demise of the Ottoman Empire, that is where first the lines were drawn, arbitrary lines, and the nations and the nations in this region all took a slice of the pie, accepted the Kurds, and actually they were assimilated and exterminated, especially in Turkey. So that is, we know the post-colonial state, the people are always not happy with the with the leadership. They are they are sensitive to it. They try. There are more frequent rebellions, and it happened all across the 4 countries in this region. So within maybe I'm posing a counterfactual question here, but within creation of a Kurdish state would have solved these immense problems that the region currently suffers, because the most of the conflicts have been or are now the related to intrastate conflict in these 4 countries. So if Kurds that have the that have all the crude materials that every nation enjoys, a common language, a common culture, common land. So if they have provided this land, wouldn't that make the tensions and the frictions, conflicts in these regions less relevant?
Actually, first I would go back because you mentioned about World War and post-colonial thing, and how Kurds were exterminated, and then every nation took a bite from except Kurds. And I think Hani has mentioned it before.
Yeah.
And it was due to happen this way. There was no other way for Kurds, in my opinion. Why? Because Hani said if we had a king, and Kurds didn't have a king. People say no, okay, so it was the colonial power, and colonial power would decide, and this colonial power was everywhere, but if there's, let's take an example of India, for example. India was governed by the same rulers, the Brits, for more than 100 years. They were ruling, they were dominating and everything. But what happened when they left in 1947? They had to divide India into Pakistan and India. So why? Because there was Gandhi on one side, a very, very, very strong leader, and on the other side there was Jinnah, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. They said that we will take it, and then they brought. And they were not. It's not that there were not no one who was opposing them or against them. There were so many people against them, but they stood strong and said, we will do it. And then they went to people and then brought the population together, and united the population for one cause. And that was independence. And unfortunately, this was what was lacking in the Kurds. This was one element which was missing among the Kurds, and that was the leadership. That is the reason that when after World War, when the Brits wanted to really appease and make Ottomans happy and wanted to divide, I don't know, I'm speechless sometimes, that I don't understand that how the leadership at that time, the leadership which was already started, the national flag was there, the flag of the color and this and that and everything was there, So why don't you stand up and bring everybody together and then say, no, we don't accept it? There was, kind of thing, but it was not a significant a leadership which stand, because you cannot ignore hundred thousands of people, or millions of people. You cannot. There's no way. And at that time, you could do things with force. Nowadays, fight like the wars are not. You cannot fight a war just only on the basis of your strength, personal strength. You need to have technology, and which Kurdistan lacks even now. But at that time, you could do that. You could do, and lots of other people did. If you look into, again, example of Indian subcontinent or Africa, South Africa, what happened, so people just do it, and you can do even non-violent, movement, as Mandela did, So, but we don't see that. Whatever we see, unfortunately, ma'am this and ma'am that, personal agendas were more important, and and then we see another example of Israel. Out of nowhere, one guy, Theodor Herzl, one guy in 1889,
95,
yeah. 1889 or 87, something around that. He had this idea, one guy, he had this idea that we Jews, we should have our own state. And then he went all over the place gathering, and that Jews were scattered all over the place. But he went to one, and there were so many people who were against him, and they had issues, personal issues. They did not discuss about those personal issues. They set aside, they said, we have just only one objective, but this is the quality of a leadership. And this is what we did not have, and we did not see in the Kurds. So this was, in my opinion, this was the first. I divide, like I say, that there are four main, like dreadful events or incidents in Kurdish history, if I see it in modern Kurdish history. One is definitely the biggest one, that Kurdish nation did not have the leadership. That is, if we count that one, it's 5. But the first one was this division, the Brits, what Brits did to appease, especially Ottomans, and dividing it. This was the first thing after the First World War. Then the second, in my opinion, was the decision of Kurds or Kurdish leadership, I would say, to join Iran, against Iraq during the Iran-Iraq war. That was the second biggest mistake that the Kurds could do, because you cannot fire on someone else on the basis of somebody else. You have to have your own power. So there was lack of, vision, and I think it really it pushed Kurd nation back to 15th century, in my opinion. This decision, went back to when this war happened, and then Kurds sided Ottomans, Chalderan. So it pushed Kurds back to that time. So that was the second biggest incident that happened, and one of the biggest blunder of the leadership, or Kurdish leadership. This was the second, and then what happened and what resulted. Like, if we look at the casualties, it's over 182,000 killings that Ba'ath and Saddam Hussein and Iraqi army did. So this one, and then the third one, I would say, after the Gulf War in 1991, the Rapari. Again, lack of vision from the leadership. The West used once again, West used Kurds once again to fight against Saddam Hussein and the Ba'ath regime. And that thing, Kurd leadership, again, lack of vision, did not understand that it was just only they were using, and they thought, okay, so the West is supporting us, and we would be supported by the West against Saddam Hussein, and we should do the Rapari, we should do the uprising, and what happened? We all know what happened after that. That was the third one, and the fourth one was after the invasion again in 2003 when the US invaded. So the US again needed Kurds because they could not fight ISIS on its own. So who could fight? Everybody knows, the Kurds. The Kurds, the great fighters, even if they do not have anything, and you see the photos, they did not have anything, anything, but they were ready to fight, and Kurdish women were there, Kurdish men were there, Peshmerga, like killing themselves, doing sacrifice, forgetting what happened, didn't learn any lesson, in my opinion, didn't learn any lesson from the past. Why? Because there was no leadership. And the leadership was happy because they were in limelight and they were having close connection with the US and they were visiting Europe, and so for them, it's okay. So they did not care about the public, general public, and they thought, the Kurds thought that, okay, so we got the US support, so let's do what? Let's go for a referendum because we get the support. So there was no proper planning. There was no proper, diplomacy, and there was no proper, lobbying. Nowadays, we know that you cannot do things just out of nothing. You have to have lobbying. You have to have diplomacy. There was no diplomacy. One or two people, one in this in the US or one in that. It doesn't work like that, So without having preparation, going into the referendum and another horrible defeat, although 92.8% of the population said yes to referendum, but the fate we all knew, and Khani said back in 14, 15, 16th century, like 600 years back, that if we had a king. So
that is the punchline. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and we should wrap up very quickly. But for the points that you raised, one small note. What do you think? Don't you think there is very obvious difference? If you look at the political strata of these countries, they are not identical to each other. For example, if you talk about Iraq, King Hussein in early 30s, in his diaries, he said, King Faisal, sorry, not King Faisal said, he said, I am ruling a country where there is no where there is not a single Iraqi. Nobody considers himself as an Iraqi, and you have a lot of bloody coups, and most of them military oriented, happened respectively one after the another. And you have it culminated, these political disorganizations culminated in the personnel cult that Saddam Hussein created. And we know that he was a person that was ready to chase a mosquito with a hammer. He was doing everything. He was a lunatic in a simple sense. But So and also his repetitive failures coincided with the radical change of the international order. The bipolar system collapsed, and there was some intervention from the Western side of it. So we in Bashur here in this part of the region had the opportunity to set a cornerstone for prosperity and to create a region, though maybe somehow it's in some points it's in a fragile point for security, but it's still it step by step economically prospers, and there is a lot of diplomatic relationship it's in. But it's very much different than the things that happens in Iran and Turkey. They are consolidated nation states. They are very powerful regionally, and they have an international stance. Their strategy, they have strategic allies, and this is what, again, going back to Khani, that is what he says. If we have Iran and Turkey as our neighbors, we won't make a step forward. So things are much different the way I see it. I don't know. I don't know how you make a comment on this. And I received a question from a student. He asked us, does the AUIS plan to offer more classes about Kurdish history and Kurdish politics? That is true, and I think we should conclude it after you answer these comments. Please go ahead, Tosha.
Okay, so actually, yes, I totally understand what Khani said at that time. That if we had Turkey and Iran. And I also have this feeling that Kurds need. So that's why in my personal opinion, that's why I say that Kurds did blunder when they sided Iran against, because Kurds were not in a position. So what they could do, that they could develop whatever they get. Whatever they get, they could focus on what. They could focus on education. They can focus on strategy. They can focus on, because I see Kurdish people everywhere in the world, So use diaspora, use people who are abroad, to develop and, not siding or sending your representative that this is my cousin, this is my girlfriend, and this and that. We all know the Kurdish representative in New York, the lady, I forgot her name, after complete disaster, even she's still there, why? Because of PDK and PUK and this and that, So if we won't come out of that, so that's why I say, in my opinion, Kurdish had lack of issues. Kurdish with leadership, didn't have leadership, don't have leadership, will not have leadership if they continue. I don't want to name anything because I'm in Brazil right now, but I have to go back to Kurdistan. So, but in my personal opinion, and again, unfortunately, again, please don't take as an offense. I see some of the distinctions of Kurdish young generation, but in my personal opinion, they are not focused. They are again power-hungry people.
Yeah.
Even young generation, I see them. I see people. I know people who are relatives and sons and daughters and this and that of political leaders. At AUIS we do. But if you talk to them and if you see deeper into it, no, they still have that status quo in their blood. that mentality, that feudal and that, tribal mentality, you have to come out of that.
Yeah, indeed.
Just using, skirt and pant and tie, it doesn't change inside.
Wow.
You can look like Westerners, but for deep inside. So no offense to anybody, please don't take it negatively, but I really want to see the Kurdish leadership, the young leadership, coming up, stepping up, in bringing people together. In one of the presentations that some of my students gave, I told them in my first class, I said that if today Iraq says, okay, Kurdistan, I had enough of you, so you can go and have an independent state, what will happen? First of all, either Turkey or Iran will attack and capture, because Turkey, until Kirkuk, they say that it's all our region.
Most of the province.
So until Kirkuk, it's Kurdish, Turkish say that it belongs to us. Until Suli, Iran says it belongs to us, and that we are gone. First, let's say that neither Iran nor Turkey attacks Kurdistan. What will happen? 3 Kurdistan: yellow Kurdistan, green Kurdistan, and orange Kurdistan. So we will have 3 names of, okay, so this is yellow Kurdistan, this is green Kurdistan, and this is orange Kurdistan. Because no unity. Why? Khani had said, the only phrase I would quote, if we had a king. So if Kurds had a leadership, if you cannot bring under one umbrella, one flag, all of them, they use one flag, but a few years back, you could not even cross Suli and go to Erbil. Otherwise you will be killed, So things have improved, but still a long way to go. Internal unity. Answering your friend's question, I don't know. I can't do anything because I'm not a head of department. I'm not nothing. I can only propose the courses. I have proposed a couple of courses to the social science department, to Dr. Tobin. And I have even proposed, as I've said, that Kurdish history, and also I have proposed the US foreign policy in Kurdistan, actually, and the Middle East. I have proposed that one, but I don't know whether it will be accepted or not, and where I will be after teaching this, because for now, I was actually came here to AUIS to teach only one course, and that was Gender and Islam. But then, when I arrived to do my research, the ones who don't know, my PhD is on Shia, Sunni, and Yazidi conflict, with special focus on northern Iraq and Kurdistan. So that's how I'm very much into it, and it's not now. I have been following Kurdish history and Mesopotamian history since my teenage, and especially focused on Yazidi cause and Yazidi history. So that's how I came over to conduct some interviews in different regions of Kurdistan, and then I proposed a course, Israel-Palestine conflict, and even in that one, I connected the conflict with Iraq Kurdish conflict, because in my opinion there are so many similarities between Israel-Palestine conflict and Iraq Kurdistan conflict. So I taught that, and then during that time, there was lots of good feedback from the students, and Dr. Robin was happy. So, and during one of our conversation, we we decided that I will teach, Kurdish history. So he said, okay, so I should come up with syllabus and everything. So thanks to Muhammad Kamran, who helped through Hadi. I got to know you, and then that's how I came up with this idea. And I'm very, very satisfied actually with the syllabus that we have chosen for this class. It's really, really amazing. It covers throughout the entire timeline of Kurdish history until today, until the referendum and after referendum. It covers everything. And along with that, I will teach modern civilizations, which again we will talk a little bit about, because we will talk about Ottomans and Safavid conflict and that time. So we will talk a little bit about Kurdish history also, but not much focus on that. But it would be modern civilizations, a really nice course that I have also developed with a different syllabus. And I will finish somewhere mid-August, and I don't know after that whether I will be back to Austria in Europe or to the US, or if there is a possibility maybe stay in Kurdistan. But until now, there is no other possibility. So I will finish in August, and then I will say bye. Yes, until and unless I'm offered a contract or staying there.
I hope the possibilities will be furnished soon, and you stay here for the courses that you just mentioned for the. And
I would love to, because it's something which, as I've mentioned, it's in my heart. It's really close to my heart. Kurdish nation, Mesopotamian region, Yazidis. I just love them. My postdoc is on Yazidi genocides, the so-called 74 genocides that they have suffered, and the history of 74 genocides. So I want to, because some people say that they have suffered 74 genocides, some people say that it's a very symbolic number. So I really want to research how many genocides Yazidis have suffered. So my postdoc is about that. So yes, so I'm really into it. I would really love to do that, but let's see where fate will take me and destiny will take me.
We will impatiently be waiting for it. I cannot express my gratitude and excitement for you to be the instructor for this course, and it was really a pleasure and honor to discuss this with you through this webinar, Dr. Shakir. And also I want to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Tobin, the department, for being so assistive in making this happen, and also Hedi and others and our other friends who were passionate about this job. It was really a nice opportunity for us to get introduced to a little bit of your knowledge and viewpoints with regard to this subject. And I think that's it. We have to finish.
Thank you. I would also
Mr.
like to.
Mr. Korek also was hosting this webinar. Thank you so much for him.
Thank you. I would also like to avail the opportunity, as I've mentioned a couple of times before. First of all, Dr. Tobin, without him, it wouldn't be possible. And he was really like, when I met him for the first time, he was very, very keen on this course. He said that he really wanted to initiate that. And when I said, yes, I would love to do it, he was really really happy. And he gave me free hand. He said, okay, choose whatever you want to choose, and then present the syllabus to me, and I will make sure that it is approved by the committee. So really like thumbs up to him and hands off, hats off to him, that he really supported us. After that, you and Hadi, I would say that you really took special interest had he just connected me and you, and then it was you and me. But thank you so very much for the initiative. It shows that how sincere you are with the Kurdish cause, and how sincere you are with teaching Kurdish history. And I think that this, whether I stay here or not, it doesn't matter. But I would say that please pursue this course and make sure that somebody should teach this. And if I'm somewhere else and I have to come and teach, once a year or twice a year, I'm more than willing to do that. I will just only for this course, I can come here. Then definitely I will not be able to come for a longer semester, but just only either winter and summer semester. But I'm more than willing to do that, and it will be an honor to do it. So it should continue. So we have, it's a stepping stone, this course, the first of its kind, but it should continue. And thank you so very much for organizing everything. Thanks for AUIS Zoom administration and IT department and people who are all the alumni, network. So thank you so much from my side.
Thanks a lot, sir. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure again.
It's really an honor, and I'm really looking forward to all of you, or most of you, to be in. And you are the ones who, maybe if you cannot take part in this course, spread the word as maximum as, I don't have any issue, as maximum as we can. We should have, the maximum numbers, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you so very much from the team and the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Me too.
Have a wonderful evening. Here it's morning, but wonderful afternoon and evening to you.
Great, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.